Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes before I get started. I want to give people time to tune in before I get started. So I wanted to encourage everyone to follow me on Twitter at NewPosBlog. Also, I want to encourage you to follow my Facebook page, New Possibilities. And if you're into reading great books, I encourage you to follow our book club, Reading as Activism. Our next meeting is this coming Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be talking about the book, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. So I hope that you all can join us. If you go to our first Facebook page, you will be able to find the link to the meeting. It will be via Zoom. And usually what we do is we have question and answers. We present questions, we moderate presenting questions to the group, and we engage in great, intelligent discussion with great people about great books. So I hope that you all can join us. Shout out to John Pro and shout out to Sean. Thanks for tuning in. So there are a couple of things that I want to talk about. I did a video about Derrick Jaxn, and I wanted to do this follow-up video because today I had a chance to listen to Tasha K's interviews that she had with these two women that had an affair with Derrick Jaxn. As many people know, Derrick Jaxn is a very popular YouTuber. He does relationship videos, and most of his videos are pandering to women. Most of his videos are talking about how women can avoid toxic men, how women can deal with men that are, unfaithful to them and all those types of things. Shout out to Jacksonville. Thanks for tuning in. So listening to Tasha K's interviews, it just made it abundantly clear that Derrick Jaxn not only had these affairs with these two women, he's had affairs since before he got married to his wife, before they actually married, while they were engaged, before they were engaged, when they were just boyfriend and girlfriend, and even into their marriage of 4 years. So throughout the marriage, throughout the relationship period, this guy has been disloyal. He's been cheating on this woman. He's a womanizer. And the thing is, this man has built his whole platform around advising women about how to avoid these types of men, toxic men, womanizers and all that kind of stuff, giving them all kinds of information about how to be on top of their game and how to see through men and all these deceptions and stuff like that. And so he also presents this judgmental air, like when he does these videos, like he'll listen into somebody's conversation or the points that they're making, and he has this smug, judgmental look on his face, and then he proceeds to go in on various people and stuff like that. And then this guy like literally sells these shirts or has these shirts that says "Black men don't cheat." And he has those shirts on. He's literally wearing those shirts in his videos while he's engaging in all of this infidelity and having all these affairs with people. So this guy's platform, his whole public persona is based on a complete lie. It's based on a false image that this man is presenting. He's presenting this image that he is the ideal man, that he is a role model for what a man should do and how a man should conduct himself. He has all this sage advice for relationships, but this is a man who has a dysfunctional marriage, where he is cheating on his wife repeatedly. And the thing that's really sick about this whole thing is that he created a platform that was designed to allegedly provide information about relationships, to provide guidance for women and teaching women how to avoid toxic men. But yet and still, this man is literally using his platform as bait to lure these women in, to get with these women, to hook up with all these women outside of his marriage, to engage in adultery while he's doing all these videos condemning adultery. And then, as I was listening to Tasha K's videos and looking at the receipts that she was presenting, this guy tried to use the excuse that he was separated from his wife. And he tried to put in some disclaimers saying that his conduct was unjustified, but essentially this man was trying to justify his conduct by suggesting that he was separated from his wife, that he thought the relationship was over and all that kind of stuff. So in some respects, he basically was suggesting that gave him some kind of green light to do what he was doing, to have all these affairs with these women and stuff like that. And Tasha K just pointed out like how, if you just look at the social media of Derrick Jackson's wife, you look at her media, like at the time when he says that they were supposed to be separated or their marriage was on the rocks and all that kind of stuff. You see all these happy pictures that she's posted of him, with him and all that kind of stuff, showing all this affection and love for this guy. But yet he's claiming that they're in all this turmoil and that they're separated and stuff like that in order to justify his conduct. And it's just contrary to what he's talking about. And then the other thing is this, even if somebody is separated, I don't think that gives them a right or justifies them cheating on their spouse. And this is something that even this guy, Derrick Jaxn, said. He did a video, as Tasha K pointed out, where this guy literally was saying that if somebody is separated, they shouldn't cheat on their spouse, even if they're separated, even if they're going through all these problems. But yet and still, that's exactly what this man was doing at the time when he was making those videos. I mean, so this guy is a complete fraud. He is a complete joke. And anybody that continues to follow him and to support him, they are getting what they deserve. They are getting, exploited for their money and stuff like that. And it's just a shame that people will continue to follow this guy, because a lot of women are attracted to him. They will blindly follow this man. They will blindly follow him. And this guy comes across as so insincere. He's so insincere. I mean, and that insincerity, was revealed in the recent video that this guy did. He did a video on his own channel where he's commenting on his own video, where he's basically acting like, while he's viewing the video that he did with his wife, he's talking about it as if that's somebody other than himself. So he's doing a critique of it, judging it like he's from the outside, like he's a completely different person looking at this information about the relationship. And I believe that if that was really somebody else, like really another relationship, he would have been going all the way in, going all the way off and all that kind of stuff. But it just shows you that this man is nothing but an actor. I mean, the way he was acting, the way he was speaking, you could tell that he's very phony. And like a lot of the brothers, I mean, we saw through this stuff. We knew this guy was a joke. We knew that his, what he was doing was preying upon these vulnerable, insecure women that have all these issues. And they're looking for some kind of savior, and they see a savior in him. Meanwhile, this guy is using this as a way to bait women in and to hook up with all these women. This one woman, this second woman that he had an affair with, reached out to him for advice in dealing with her relationship. She was having issues with her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend or whatever, and she reached out to him, and then he used that as an opportunity to have sex with this woman, to exploit her vulnerability and have sex with her. And she was just another woman on his roster of women. And another thing that comes across in these interviews that this guy's done, both the interview that he set up with his wife, the interviews that he did well, his own video where he was talking about the situation. All of these interviews, like he's speaking in a third person. I mean, this guy is projecting and exuding arrogance. And this is what happens when you have these social media platforms and you get all these people following you. It blows up your ego. It gives you a sense of entitlement. It makes you think you're all that, especially when you have all these women constantly feeding your ego, talking about how attractive you are and all that kind of stuff. It blows up your head and you begin to develop a narcissistic personality. And that's what this guy has developed. And his wife looked like almost like a hostage in that ridiculous video that they did. Just sounding like she was reading from a script. And it's just a shame that religion, as I mentioned in the last video, was being used as a tool to keep this woman in check while this guy continues to do his dirt. It's a tool used to exploit this woman, and she's using it just like anybody would use a narcotic to numb the pain so that she can deal with this awful situation where this guy is repeatedly cheating on her. Like, I couldn't even imagine being in a relationship where I knew that the woman that I was with cheated on me with just one man. Just imagine a woman that you're with repeatedly cheating on you time and time again from the beginning of your relationship. And you become so broken and so worn down that you decide that, hey, I'm going to put up with this stuff. I'm going to tolerate this stuff. And before I get to the main subject of this particular video, there's a couple of other things that I want to talk about. The other thing is this social media issue. Because before this guy got exposed for cheating on his wife, on his Instagram, he didn't have any images at all of his wife. No images of his wife, just images of himself. And, I think that was done for a couple of reasons. And I think that should be a red flag if somebody's in a serious relationship. Now, I'm not talking about a fling or anything like that, but I'm talking about a serious relationship where you're supposed to be committed to somebody. And that person has no pictures of you on their social media, no pictures sharing your happy moments or the things that you do or showing any kind of affection for you. But this is a man that constantly talks about the need to show affection to women and to treat women like queens and all this and that. But he doesn't even feature his own wife on his own social media. That's a huge red flag. And the thing is, like, everything is unequal in this situation because she used her social media and had pictures of him everywhere throughout her social media before this whole thing happened and after it happened. But yet he doesn't have any pictures of her on his social media. And part of that is to maintain, this secret lifestyle. Like, a lot of people probably didn't even know this guy was married. I had no idea he was married until recently or whatever. But a lot of these women, they probably had no idea that this guy was married initially. So it made it, by eliminating his wife from his social media, not having her on his social media, that made it easier for him to get his pimp game popping on his social media. Also, it furthers this brand. It helps him with his branding and stuff like that. If he's branded as somebody that's already taken and stuff like that, a lot, and maybe less women will be inclined to tune in because some of these women have hopes that in their heart, like they may have these crushes on him and may imagine themselves with him and stuff like that. And it helps when somebody is single so that somebody could live in that delusion of a possibility of being with this guy. But it says, though, it serves those two purposes. Those are two purposes that it may serve: to further, his business, and also to allow him to get this online pimping popping. And another thing is this: like, when people are ashamed to, when they don't want to show their significant other on their social media, I think that that's a sign that, that may be a sign that perhaps they are ashamed of that person. They don't feel proud of that significant other. because if you are really proud of your loved one, you want the whole world to see this person. You want the world to share in your happiness. But when you're ashamed of them, you hide them. You cover them up so nobody will see them. So I think that that's a problem. I think that that's one of the problems with this whole situation. So, to get to the main topic of this particular live stream, I'll just say this: like, I watched the interviews. I watched the interviews. I've seen a lot of commentary on my Facebook and throughout social media, and even here on YouTube, and everyone is rightfully condemning Derrick Jaxn as a hypocrite, as they should. They're condemning him as a complete fraud, as they should. Because anytime you build a platform on fidelity and you don't have any fidelity or loyalty to your wife, or you're running out on your wife from the beginning, like there's never been a period where you've been loyal, that exposes you as a fraud. So, while people are rightfully condemning him, I haven't heard much about the women involved. Like, people are giving these women a complete pass. Both of these women that did these interviews on Tasha K's channel, like, admitted that they knew he was married. They claimed that they bought into this lie that he was getting separate. He was separated and he was having problems with his wife. But I don't think that excuses their behavior. They knew what they were getting into. These women are not some innocent damsels in distress. They're not some helpless victims. They are culpable as well. They have some kind of role to play in this as well. But I don't hear many people talking about this. I hear a lot of these women talking about how bad Derrick Jaxn is, and rightfully so, but nobody is talking about what these women did. One of these women, at least one of these women, went into his marital home and had sex with this guy. Like, she saw the items in his house. Like, she could see that, that his wife would live there and stuff like that. I think they were in the process of moving or whatever, but this woman knew that this man was married. But yet and still, she decided to have an affair with this man. She knew he was married, but nobody is talking about how wrong she was for getting into this situation, for being with a married man, especially a married man that professes to be concerned about how women are treated, tries to provide all this advice to women about how to avoid dysfunctional men. But yet these women knowingly had affairs with this guy, but nobody is speaking out against this. Tasha K didn't ask these women anything about why they decided to have an affair with a married man that has children. These women didn't care nothing about his family, and they tried to use this whole separation thing as some kind of convenient excuse. I don't think being separated from somebody justifies having some affairs. If you want to have affairs, want to have all these multiple partners and all that kind of stuff, you shouldn't get married. You shouldn't make some kind of oath before God and before your friends and families to be with somebody until death do you part, and then completely violate that. And because you're temporarily separated, you think that it's okay to have an affair. And these women have to be accountable as well. And, I raised this question on my social media, on my personal Facebook page, and a lot of women agreed with that. They agreed that there should be some accountability. And let's be perfectly clear. Like, obviously, he bears the most responsibility. He's the one that got married. He's the one that made these marital vows and all that kind of stuff. He bears primary responsibility, and the focus should primarily be on him. But we cannot just let these women get a pass. And that's what we do too often. We give all kinds of passes, and we, make it okay for them to do their thing, because there wasn't a single question raised to these women by Tasha K. she didn't ask them like, you knew he was married, like why would you do something like that? He has children and all that kind of stuff. Did you think about disrupting his family life and all that kind of stuff? Not a single question about that. Because like I think that there is an issue of a lack of accountability for women, unfortunately. So a lot of people agree with me, but then you had a lot of people say, well, hey, that shouldn't even be on the table for discussion. It's all on him. He's the one that made the marriage vows and all that kind of stuff. But it takes two people to have an affair. I mean, it's the woman who knowingly got into the situation. I can understand, I can have more sympathy for somebody that has no clue at all. Like if they don't know anything about the situation, they think this person is single and they are falsely put into a situation. But when you knowingly go into a situation, knowing that this man is married and you proceed anyway, and then you want to run to the social media to complain, to make it seem like, woe is me, I'm some victim of some womanizer and stuff like that, when you knew the whole situation going into it. And it's like, if these women like had any kind of sense of sisterhood or bonding with other women, like they wouldn't betray another woman like that. And the same is true for men in these situations. But, so I had to raise this issue because I just think that it's something that's being neglected. It's being completely neglected by, everybody. Most people that's talking about this. And then, like as Psycho pointed out, like he talked about how some of these black men who hated, and even on my Facebook page, some people mentioned this. Like they talked about like how there are a lot of these black men who like called Derrick Jaxn out before this whole controversy came up. They called him a simp. Talked about how he was pandering to these women, and now that he's in this situation where he's been exposed and he's facing all this criticism, you have these YouTubers, these black red pill guys, some of them trying to defend him, saying that they would never, join women and piling on with this guy and, dissing him and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that's just messed up. I think that, I just think that that's stupid. As Psycho pointed out, like it's stupid because, as soon as this guy gets an opportunity, he's going to throw these guys under the bus. And, he spent his platform, most of his time criticizing those types of people, but yet and still they're giving him a pass simply because he's a man being attacked by some women. So, I think that that's ridiculous. And I just think that accountability needs to be all encompassing. It can't just be one-sided. Like, some people are just saying, well, at the end of the day, like nobody forced him to cheat on his wife. He made that decision and all that kind of stuff. And so, nobody should be, nobody should be talking about what these women did. And that, when you had a situation where there is no accountability, you will continue to see stuff like this. We live in a shameless society where there is no accountability. I remember like back in the day, like it used to be something shameful. For instance, for a woman to sleep around, for a woman to have children out of, for a young woman to have children out of wedlock, that used to be something frowned upon and all that kind of stuff. But this stuff has become normal. This has become the norm in society. It's women who sleep around and all that kind of stuff are called liberated women. It seemed, that's some kind of badge of honor, like it's being celebrated and stuff like that, to the point where a lot of these women have the same type of mentality that these men have that women used to call dogs. And you had a shameless society where people like, Cardi B is celebrated for putting out songs called WAP, where they're singing about their private parts, where they objectify themselves and they view that as women's empowerment. There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with a society where there is no shame. Nothing is wrong. Everything is cool and everything is okay. Like it's just become rare that you will find a woman who is modest, a woman who is chaste and all that kind of stuff. The norm is for women to be promiscuous. That's what the society promotes. That's what the society celebrates. And there's no accountability. And accountability obviously shouldn't just be on the women. It should be on the men as well. But it's like when you have this type of situation, you see the results of that in society. You see the collapse of the Black family, where over 70% of Black families are single parent households, headed by women. There's something wrong with that picture, and we see the results of that destruction of the family. And it's not all on the woman, it's on the man as well. But let's stop having this carefree, lackadaisical attitude where we don't want to hold anybody accountable for anything. We got people celebrating slut walks and all that kind of stuff. Using terms like slut shaming and stuff like that. Saying that, that's, it's bad to shame somebody for being promiscuous. We have become such a politically correct society that prostitutes are now referred to as sex workers, and they're talking about sex workers' rights and all that kind of stuff. We are living in a shameless society where the majority of these female rap artists are former strippers and stuff like that. And they're promoting thought culture and they're celebrating it. But nobody really wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to address that. And I think that that's what's happening with this whole Derrick Jaxn thing. Nobody wants to address the fact that you have these women who were fine with being with a married man. Nobody wants to address, and I can understand if somebody views somebody as attractive, they're going to flirt with them. But if you know that this man is married and stuff like that, and you still, some of these women pursued him. And I'm not going to say, and I will say this, of course, if somebody's a celebrity and they get all this attention, they're going to be subjected to more temptation and stuff like that. But if you built your whole platform on Black men don't cheat and all that kind of stuff, you shouldn't be engaging in this behavior. I mean, and I could understand, I could even understand if somebody had one mistake or something like that. But according to all this information, this has been a pattern with this guy. The whole time that he created this channel, that he had that channel and had all this fame and was putting out all these relationship books and stuff like that, he was living foul. So, yeah, so that's what I have to say about that. So I'm going to see what you all are saying in the comments before I close out. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Yeah, I mean, Sean said women don't take accountability. And I believe there are women that are accountable and they do take accountability, but there are so many that don't. I mean, on my Facebook page, I was having this extended exchange with an educated Black woman that I went to college with. And she was defending these people, basically, saying that, all shocked and surprised that I was saying that, that these women should be held accountable as well. Somebody should be raising the question of why these women decided to sleep with a married man and stuff like that. But this woman was going on and on and on about why these women don't need to be held accountable and why we need to just focus on him. This is a married woman as well. And then you got people using this excuse that they, this separation thing, like making it seem like it's okay to have an affair if you're separated with somebody, which makes no sense to me. Yeah, Lashid, it was more than just one woman. There are two that are known, like that did interviews with Tasha K. And then, there's a whole bunch of other women as well before those other two women. And Tasha K, like she was talking about how one of these women tried to, came to Tasha K a few years ago to complain about how this guy, Derrick Jackson, got one of them pregnant and forced them to get an abortion. But the woman, was scheduled to do an interview and do her, come on Tasha K's show, but she apparently backed out of it. So yeah, I mean, this is a pattern with this guy. It's definitely a pattern. And it's just messed up, man. The whole thing is messed up. That you, I mean, and I think that in a lot of ways, this will probably set a black man back a lot. I mean, even though like this is just one person or whatever, but like I'm sure there's some women that were like, man, I thought we could trust him. He's a good black man. Now we can't trust no black man. We can't trust him. We can't trust any black man. And that's the thing, man. A lot of these men that pander to these women are just pimps, like I said in my last video. They say the stuff that the women want to hear, even if they don't believe in that stuff themselves. They give the women what they want to hear. They please their ears so that they can get what they want from them. Whether it's them buying their books, watching their videos, having sex with them. It's what, all of those things, man. That's what they do. And he's just another example of that. Yeah, Sean, I think that was one of the real sickening things, like how, he brought God into this thing to, it's like, I hate when people exploit religion to advance their own interests. And that's what he did, basically. And it's sad, it's sad to see somebody do this. It's sad to see this woman put up with this stuff because, of religion. And there's another person that reminds me of this guy, like that definitely reminds me of this guy. And I can't say for sure if this person is, similar to this. But I mean, this person reminds me of that, like preying upon dark-skinned women's insecurities and, using their looks to capitalize on these insecure black women, preying upon them just like any other predator. And it's just a shame, man. It's just real disappointing. Yeah, so Tyrese mentioned that he was talking in third person. Yeah, that's something I mentioned earlier. Just kept saying, like, it's like me saying, new possibilities this, new possibilities that. Like, it just comes off arrogant. It comes off like self-centered. Like you're so bought, you have bought so much into your hype. Your head is so blown up that you have decided to refer to yourself in third person. Um, yeah, I mean, and that interview was just something else, seeing him with his wife. I mean, as many people have said, like, he just brought his wife out there looking any old kind of way, knowing that this whole thing would go viral and stuff like that. Man, it's just sad, man. So let me see what else you all are saying. Yeah, so people were talking about how he gave people the illusion that he was single, and many of his followers didn't know that he was married. Yeah, I'm sure that that's true. Um, yeah, because if you got a whole social media page where you're celebrating your life and you don't have a single picture of your wife, man, like you don't have a single picture of her, man. It's clear that you're up to something. It's clear. So Sean said, I think Derrick had level up his status and was trying to find women on his level. So like because he's all, I'm sure he's rich because his channel like has almost 1 million subscribers and all that kind of stuff. He's got these books that are selling well and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's wealthy. He has all this, support and all these followers and stuff like that. So yeah, with all of that comes like an increased sense of importance. He may be like, I'm trying, I want to upgrade. I feel like I deserve better and stuff like that. And the point is like, why? I mean, if you're not attracted to somebody or you don't have that kind of love for them or respect for them, then you shouldn't even marry them. You shouldn't put yourself in that situation. And one thing that Renee on, with Psycho, she's on Psycho's program. Renee, she brought out a very good point on her live stream. I think it was yesterday. And she was talking about love. Like love was missing from that interview that Derrick Jaxn did with his wife. They didn't talk about staying together for love. They weren't focused on love. Instead, they were using religion as the excuse or the reason to stay together. And I think that that's a bad sign. A relationship shouldn't just be about, fulfilling religious obligations. A relationship should be based on love and all that kind of stuff. And you would think that a self-professed relationship guru and expert would know that stuff. But this whole situation just exposes this guy. It exposes him for either not knowing what the hell he's talking about or not living up to all the stuff and all the rhetoric that he talks. And it's just like amazing that so many people bought into his nonsense, man. That all these women like just flocked to him and followed him and believed that he was sincere and all that kind of stuff. When so many of us could see through it, we could see that he was phony as hell, phony as a $3 bill. And the thing is, a lot of his videos are based on things that he does. Like he's giving people game to how he cheated and stuff like that, basically. Telling women certain signs to look for or how to deal with certain things. And he's speaking from his own experience as a serial cheater, as a womanizer. And like anytime I hear him talking, it's like so incredibly phony, man. Like, and again, that video where he did his own reaction to his own interview just exposed how phony and fake he is. So somebody said they're not holding the women accountable with whom he had committed adultery because they are influencers. And that they don't want to, I guess you're saying that they don't want to attack another influencer. And then, I mean, I understand it from a practical standpoint. Like, I guess if they were to ask them those tough questions, maybe they would back out of the interview or something like that. But what I would do if I was them, I would raise those questions at the end after I got all the other information that I wanted. I would raise those questions at the end. Yeah, so I'm still scrolling through your comments. And then, like, my brother made a great point, like, when on my Facebook page, he was talking about how some women or just people in general like to be the side person in a relationship. Like, there's some women that have no problem being a side woman. In fact, some of them prefer to be in that position. And again, that goes back to the lack of accountability issue. And, one of my friends on Facebook pointed out how while these people are giving the women that cheated with this guy a complete pass, they are ridiculing his wife. There are memes on here on social media disrespecting his wife, basically saying that, people understand why he cheated because she's not attractive or because of the way she looks and all that kind of stuff. And what they did is, like, this one particular meme shows his wife, wearing the bonnet and the glasses and all that kind of stuff. And then it has these mistresses there as well, bathed, in pictures where they're scantily clad, wearing their underwear and stuff like that. Again, that's the accountability piece. Like, nobody's talking about, like, how these women are dressed or what they decided to do with this guy. But that's not politically correct. I know it's not politically correct to raise these issues. Yeah, so somebody said that they called this out on O'Shea Duke Jackson's channel. And, right before I came on here and, after I had already had the subject matter for this particular live stream, I saw that O'Shea was doing some video about accountability with women and all that kind of stuff as well. So I haven't had a chance to see what he's talking about. I'll check it out. But one thing, that I will say that since his name is mentioned right now, one thing that I found interesting about O'Shea is his own hypocrisy. I saw a video that he did, like I think it was his first reaction video to this whole Derrick Jaxn situation. And in that video, he was talking about how people basically need to keep it real. And then he went on to talk about how he buys all these things for women, buys them wigs and, weave and all this other stuff so that he can be with them and all that kind of stuff. And I was just, like, taken aback by that, because basically he was admitting that he's a simp, after doing all these videos talking about people simping and avoiding simping and talking about women getting over on men. And after being one of the, the leaders of this so-called black manosphere and stuff like this guy is admitting to being a simp. And I just find that mind-blowing. I find it mind-blowing that nobody would check him on that. Like, how are you one of the main figures in the so-called manosphere, one of the main people in the so-called red pill community, one of the main people with all this stuff to say about women and to criticize women for this and for that, but yet you're participating in a very dysfunction, the same kind of simp behavior that your whole platform is based upon criticizing. And to me, that is not much different. I mean, what Derrick Jaxn did is, far worse and all that kind of stuff. But I'm saying in terms of the hypocrisy aspect of it is similar. And also, this guy, like, in this live stream, he was talking about how he uses his supporters' money to simp for these women. So you got all of these men that flock to his channel to hear all these critiques of women and stuff like this, hear all this condemnation of simping, and they give this man money, which he uses to simp, to trick, you know, to try to pander to, to pander, to cater to women, to get what he wants from women. And that's another example of hypocrisy. So I just had to call that out while I saw you mention O'Shea, and I don't have no issues with him or nothing right now. But I just had to call that out because I was like, what? And then you still had these people throwing money at this guy after he's admitting to using this money to simp. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm using the terminology of the people in that manosphere. I'm using their own terminology against them. I don't have any problem with someone buying a woman things if it's not an exploitive situation, if it's not a situation where the woman is just exploiting the guy and the guy feels that he has to buy her affection and stuff like that, buy her company. So let's be clear about that. Yeah, and Sean, you're right. Like, what people used to call a hoe, a skeezer and all that kind of stuff, and all these other derogatory words. Today, that's celebrated. That's viewed as liberating. So somebody said they are holding the women accountable, and I wonder who you're referring to when you say they are holding the women accountable. Who's holding the women accountable? So, somebody said black women take an L because we get caught up in the symbolism. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is an L all around, man. It's an L for the black women that believed in this guy's hustle and all that kind of stuff, believed that he was the ideal black man and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he was the complete opposite. It's an L for black men, as I mentioned before, because here you have, the quote unquote good guy, the person that has presented himself as a good guy being a complete fraud. So it's going to make, many black women just look at black men differently and be like, can I trust this guy that's presenting as a good guy? Is he just like all the quote unquote others and all that kind of stuff? This does set black relationships back because this guy is a major influencer. So somebody said, we don't vet men, and that's because we're not looking for qualified men to give advice. We're looking for men who will validate our existence and tell us we're good enough as a black woman. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, man. Because like he does all these videos where he's like saying something is wrong with a black man. For instance, if he decides not to be in like he's not a real man, if he doesn't want to be in a relationship with a single mother and all that kind of stuff. Making it seem like it's something wrong with him. Or, so that kind of situation where there's no accountability at all, where, a lot of the criticism is directed at men. And people said, don't believe what people say on the internet. He's using that money for food. Yeah, I mean, he probably is. Like, he's eating off of, I'm sure he's getting paid off of this controversy too. It's helping him out because he's getting even more publicity. Like, before this incident happened, many people outside of YouTube had no idea who this guy was. Many people, like on my personal Facebook page, they're like, who is this guy? Like, why is everybody talking about him? So now his audience is even bigger. And I would not be surprised if this guy doesn't become more and more successful and get more and more subscribers and more attention for the reasons that I stated in my previous video, which I won't reiterate here. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can pull up one of these pictures of him with this "Black Men Don't Cheat" shirt, so y'all can see this for yourself. Just bear with me a second. I got so much I have to do, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can share my screen. I wish I had more time, but I gotta read this book for the book club. I want to work on this painting that I'm working on. Okay. So here's the picture right here. So he has this shirt on, "Black Men Don't Cheat." You see that? Yeah, you all can see that. Which is just a joke, man. It's just so ridiculous that somebody will be caught out here like that. And then I'm going to try to go over his channel again and just highlight a couple of the videos. And then one thing that Tasha K pointed out, I'm having a problem with my YouTube link for whatever reason. But one thing that Tasha K pointed out is, like, you know, this guy doing these videos where he's saying, as I mentioned before, where he's talking about, oh, if you're separated, don't cheat and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just like, just all the hypocrisy is just crazy. So let me see if other people have points before I close out. Just bear with me a second. Oh, somebody said even E.T. Canada covered him. Yeah, so he's getting a lot of attention. Like, it's just, and I'm sure he's going to capitalize on it. He's going to cash out, and I bet you his book will do well. And, you know, one thing that I want to say is, you know, like, despite my criticism of him, like, I hope that, you know, him and his wife work out their issues and they do have a productive and happy marriage going forward and stuff. You know, I don't take any delight in this. You know, I just find it something to be odd. Like, I have to call out this hypocrisy, this blatant hypocrisy, not only with respect to him presenting this false image, but also this lopsided thing when it comes to accountability, where the women involved are not being held accountable at all. Um, that has to be addressed. So let's see what else people are saying. And, you know, I wanted to say, like, one thing that I found to be kind of messed up is that, like, even though, like, I'm glad that Tasha K exposed this fraud and all that kind of stuff, it seemed like she was enjoying it too much, like enjoying having all this dirt on this guy and stuff like that, enjoying the gossip and stuff. And that's not, I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy tearing somebody down. Like, I don't really enjoy doing videos like this. This is not something that I enjoy. I don't take delight, but it seemed like Tasha K was all amped up and, you know, enjoying witnessing the downfall of, you know, Derrick Jaxn. And part of me understands it, but it's like, it's just messed up that we rejoice in the downfall of others. So that's all I'll say about that. Let's see what else you all are saying. And this whole third person thing is not something that's just confined to him. Like, you see people like, even people like Umar Johnson, you hear them saying, like Umar Johnson will be talking about himself in third person and stuff like that. I'm telling you, this social media goes to people's head. You know, it creates a toxic environment where people get bloated with all this pride and conceit and ego and stuff like that, and narcissism. because it gives them a sense of importance and stuff like that. When they have all this attention from people and they're showered with all this praise, it makes them start to worship themselves and view themselves as bigger than what they are. And it's sad to see it happen, man. It's sad to see how these people are. Yeah, so another person is saying that they didn't know who he was before either. Yeah, man. So those are my thoughts about this. You know, I'm really interested in hearing from you. What do you think about this thing? Do you think, you know, there should be more focus on the women who decided to lay down with this married man? Or do you think I'm being unfair by raising this issue? Why or why not? So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings to each and every one of you. Shout out to every single person that tuned in to this live stream. I appreciate your support. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a great evening.